Aya Wilson's name used command respect in women's basketball, but that grip is slipping. When the Team USA training camp roster was released, her exclusion wasn't just surprising, it was telling. While Caitlin Clark secured her spot as a clear future of the national program, Wilson found herself on the outside looking in. Her recent attempt to assert relevance, cryptic social media posts, jabs masked as empowerment, and an ongoing chip-on-the-shoulder routine.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
Have exposed a deeper issue. Wilson has failed to grow into the kind of leader today's game demands. Her responses haven't projected strength or composure. They've highlighted a pattern of insecurity, frustration, and entitlement that no longer fits the direction of elite international play. Team USA's decision wasn't emotional, it was strategic. Wilson's exclusion reflects a broader shift toward athletes who embody composure, cultural influence, and long-term vision. Clark's rise isn't just about points or popularity. It's about being a complete package in an evolving sport. Wilson's inability to adapt, her resistance to growth, and her public displays of frustration sent the wrong message at the wrong time. That message? She's not ready for what the future of Team USA is. You wake up, check your phone, and boom, Aya Wilson is trending, but not because she dropped 30 points or won another title. Nope. She's accusing Team USA of racism after not getting invited to their critical training camp ahead of the 2026 World Cup and 2028 Olympics. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark? She's packing her bags for Duke, ready to take another step toward becoming the global face of women's, and here we are, watching the meltdown unfold in real time. Let's not sugarcoat it. This camp isn't just some warm-up session. It's the pipeline. It's where the foundation is laid for future Olympic dominance. So when Caitlin Clark, fresh out of college and already a cultural phenomenon, gets the call, but Aya Wilson, a two-time WNBA champion and Olympic gold medalist, gets left on read? Yeah, eyebrows were raised. But then Aya took a step further and turned into a full-blown accusation of systemic racism. Cue the chaos. But let's rewind, because this isn't about one training camp. This is about everything that's led up to this moment. The shifting power dynamics, the performance versus marketability debate, and the uncomfortable truth about what it means to be the face of a sport, and Aya Wilson was that face. For a while, she had the accolades, the stats, and the spotlight. But lately, it's like she's been watching the train pass her by. Especially the one driven by Caitlin Clark, who hasn't just joined the conversation. She's taken over the room. Caitlin Clark is breaking records on and off the court. Viewership, through the roof. Merchandise, flying off shelves. Sponsorships, multi-million-dollar deals. She's a rare athlete who doesn't just play the game, she moves the culture. That kind of influence is gold, especially for Team USA, who knows the Olympics aren't just about winning. They're about capturing global attention. And right now, Clark is attention. She's not just relatable, she's aspirational. Team first, humble, consistent, charismatic. Everything sponsors and international audiences eat up. So when USA Basketball looks at who they want to build around for the next 4 years, are we really shocked they chose a player who lights up arenas and algorithms? Now contrast that with Aya Wilson. What's she been known for lately? Passive-aggressive tweets, vague shade, public jabs about being overlooked and not getting her flowers. She's made her shoe deal a talking point. Less about the shoes, more about how long it took. And she's framed it all like a battle against invisible enemies. But here's the thing. No one is arguing she's not talented. No one's saying she isn't one of the best on the court. What they are questioning is whether she still represents what the sport needs to grow. Because when Team USA sat down to build their future roster, they weren't just evaluating jump shots and rebounds. They were looking at leadership, adaptability, cultural impact, and, yes, marketability. And Caitlin Clark, whether you like it or not, checks every one of those boxes. Aya, not so much. Her social media presence lately has felt more like a protest than a promotion. And let's be honest, it's not a good look when every accomplishment feels like it comes with a chip on the shoulder. That bitterness has been seeping through, and it's costing her. Not just fans, but the trust of the very people selecting these teams. Because when a player starts posting cryptic messages and throwing indirects online, instead of focusing on chemistry and leadership, you're not building a case for inclusion. You're writing your own exit script. Coaches and execs notice that. They want players who uplift the locker room, not ones who make about themselves. And no, accusing Team USA of racism doesn't suddenly erase the optics of insecurity. It magnifies them. Let's get something straight. Claiming racism in a scenario where objective, performance-based, and strategic decisions were made by a panel of professional coaches? That's not a brave call-out. It's a deflection, especially when the player being favored over you isn't just white. She's better positioned for the sport's future. It's not about race. It's about reach. Caitlin Clark is doing what every league dreams of, turning women's basketball into a mainstream product. That's not about luck. That's about how she plays, how she carries herself, and how she connects. When she steps on the court, she draws people in. She's not throwing shade. She's throwing assists. She's not starting social media beef. She's breaking IAS recent narrative, on the other hand, reads more like a diary entry than a highlight reel. She's been more focused on being right than being effective. And that misstep, that unwillingness to evolve with the times, that's what's costing her. Because here's the blunt truth. The game is changing. It's no longer enough to be good. You have to be valuable. Economically, culturally, and globally. The new era of athletes has to wear more than one hat. They need to lead, influence, and inspire on and off the court. Caitlin Clark fits that mold perfectly. Aya Wilson, despite all her on-court talent, hasn't shown she can keep up with that pace. This isn't just a snub. It's a statement. Team USA is sending a clear message. The future is about building a global brand, and they're choosing players who can make that. Clark's crossover appeal into other sports? Massive. Her endorsements? Game-changing. Her ability to bring casual fans into women's basketball? Unmatched. She's more than a player. She's a movement. And she does it without the attitude, without the online tantrums, and without making every slight a storyline. That humility and professionalism, that's what wins over coaches. That's what gets you invited to camps like these. Wilson, unfortunately, has spent more time trying to convince the world of her importance than letting her game and leadership do the talking. And now, it's caught up with her. What's worse is that her reaction to being excluded hasn't helped her case. Accusing Team USA of racism isn't just tone-deaf, it's irresponsible. Especially when the player selected over her is helping to elevate the sport to unprecedented heights. Instead of acknowledging that maybe, just maybe, the game has evolved and she hasn't adapted, Wilson played the victim. And that's not leadership. That's deflection. No coach wants to build around someone who can't take accountability or accept that their off-court behavior matters just as much as their on-court stats. Meanwhile, Team USA is looking ahead. They're pairing Clark with rising stars like Paige Buchers, Juju Watkins, and other emerging talent who bring energy, chemistry, and a clean slate. It's not just about one person. It's about building a dynasty, a unit that can dominate for years, while also representing the sport on a global level. And Aya Wilson's name isn't on that. That's not a conspiracy. That's strategy. In a world where sports are as much about business as they are about buckets, Wilson has failed to adapt. Her approach has been reactive, bitter, and ultimately self-sabotaging. So when the coaching staff passed on her for this camp, they weren't canceling her. They were prioritizing what the future needs. Players who can grow the game, not just pad stats. Players who bring unity, not drama. Players who get the assignment. Clark does. Wilson doesn't. This camp was a turning point, a line in the sand. And Wilson's response proved exactly why she was left off. There's still time for her to pivot, to show maturity, to embrace the team-first mentality she's been lacking. But that won't happen through shady posts or public meltdowns. It'll happen through accountability, growth, and maybe, learning something from the players she's so desperate to outshine. Because Caitlin Clark isn't just rising, she's redefining. And Aya Wilson? She can either evolve or keep watching from the... If you got thoughts on this whole mess, drop in the comments. We know you do. Was Team USA justified? Is Wilson out of line? Are we witnessing the rise of a new dynasty? or the fall of an old guard. Hit like if you're here for the drama. Share this with someone who needs to catch up, and don't forget to subscribe. We got plenty more meltdowns coming your way. All right, so now that the shock has settled in, let's really talk about what this actually means for Aya Wilson. Because this isn't just a miscamp. It's a red flag, a warning, a hard left turn from the direction we thought her career was heading in. This was supposed to be the next chapter of her international dominance, the follow-up to her Olympic gold, the continuation of her legacy. And instead, she's on the outside, watching the torch being passed to someone else. And the worst part? She didn't see it coming. Because when you're used to being the centerpiece to go to, the automatic pick, getting benched feels like betrayal. But it wasn't. It was a calculated move by a system. Now, let's not pretend Team USA didn't consider her talent. They did. The coaching staff isn't blind to her stats or her accolades. But what they're doing now is looking at fit, long-term chemistry, media appeal, leadership temperament, players who can function as cultural ambassadors as much as basketball machines. They're not just building a team, they're constructing a brand. And this is where Aya has fumbled, because while she's been chasing validation online and calling out vague injustice, Caitlin Clark has been out there leading by example, quietly, confidently, and consistently showing that she's not just the real deal. She's the whole damn package. The girl next door who breaks records and smiles for the camera? Yeah, that's who sponsors and federations are betting on. And it's working. Clark isn't just getting invited to camps. She's being welcomed in, celebrated, positioned, and she's doing it all while staying locked in. No drama, no digs, no whining on Twitter. Just results. Just meanwhile, Aya Wilson is online making it about everything except basketball. Let's talk about those posts. You know the ones. The shoe deal flexes, the cryptic quotes, the not-so-subtle shots at certain people getting more shine. Those aren't moments of empowerment. They're transparent cries for attention. They read like someone who's stuck comparing instead of, and listen, comparison is a thief of joy, but it's also the thief of focus. And right now, Aya Wilson has lost hers. While she's busy tracking who's getting more media coverage, more merch sales, more praise from the league office, Caitlin Clark is just doing the work. She's out there showing exactly why the future is being built around her. In Team USA, they've made it abundantly clear. They don't have time for ego. They don't have patience for players who need constant reassurance. They want leaders. Players who unite, not divide. Players who see beyond their own spotlight. Let's be real. It's not even about choosing one over the other. It's about who aligns with the vision. And Wilson, through her own behavior, has made it crystal clear that she's not on the same. She's tried to position herself as the underdog, the overlooked one, the victim of a system that won't give her credit. But the truth? She had the credit. She had the crown. She had the support. And she let it slip away. Not because she wasn't good enough, but because she couldn't let go of the need to be center stage all the time. That's not leadership. That's insecurity. And now, when the consequences arrive, when Team USA makes a business decision based on holistic evaluation of talent, attitude, influence, and potential, Aya Wilson reaches for the race card. Let's pause there, because this is the part that makes people uncomfortable, but it has to be said, reducing a complex, strategic decision by a diverse and experienced coaching staff to racism is not only lazy, it's dangerous. It undermines real issues of inequality by weaponizing the term in moments of personal disappointment. No one is erasing Aya's identity or her journey. But when her exclusion is framed as racial bias, especially when a player being included has done everything right and more, it becomes a distraction, a deflection from what's really going on, a player who couldn't adapt to the new landscape. And this new landscape isn't just about points and rebounds. It's about resonance, relevance, responsibility. The media landscape is global now. Fans from Tokyo to Toronto are watching. Brands are investing. Eyes are everywhere. And players who can navigate that world with grace, professionalism, and consistency are the ones who will be chosen to represent their countries. Caitlin Clark is the blueprint, and that's not up for debate. You can see it in her composure, her discipline, the way she handles fame without spiraling, the way she still plays for her teammates, not just the cameras. That's what modern leadership looks like. That's what modern success. And yet, Aya Wilson can't stop making it personal. Instead of regrouping and grinding harder, she's taken to social media like it's a diary. Instead of showing maturity, she's lashing out. And instead of acknowledging that maybe, just maybe, her off-court attitude isn't helping her case, she's doubling down. It's not a good look. It's not productive. And worst of all, it's starting to alienate her. Coaches talk. Teams notice. Sponsors definitely pay attention. And when a player starts turning every career disappointment into a public war against invisible forces, that doesn't scream leader. That screams liability. So here we are. Aya Wilson, once the face of American women's basketball, is now watching the future unfold without her. And instead of asking why, really asking why, she's blaming everyone but herself. The invitation didn't come because the trust isn't there. The chemistry isn't there. The alignment isn't there. And Caitlin Clark? She didn't just show up at the right time. She earned it with every step, every pass, every composed answer in a post-game interview. She's put in the work and stayed grounded. That's what wins over the locker room. That's what builds a dynasty. Team USA sees that. The fans see it. The market sees it. Wilson can keep yelling into the void, or she can take a breath, recalibrate, and maybe learn from what's happening. Because the door's not completely shut, but the clock is ticking. And every cryptic post, every bitterness-soaked interview, is one more nail in the coffin of what could have been a lasting legacy. The sad part? She has the game. She has a resume. But what she doesn't have right now is the vision. She could have been part of something huge, something transformative. But instead of stepping into evolution, she tried to control the narrative and lost the plot entirely. Meanwhile, the rest of us are watching the shift in real time. Team USA has made its choice. The program is moving forward with younger talent, with a long-term mindset, with a clear priority on players who can grow the sport on a global scale. That's not about disrespect. That's about direction. And Wilson's recent choices? They just don't fit that future. It's a brutal reality, but one she brought on herself. So now the question isn't, why didn't she get invited? It's, will she be able to grow from this? Or will she stay stuck, dragging the conversation down, while everyone else is focused on what's next? At this point, we have to be honest, Aya Wilson is at a crossroads. Not in her talent, not in her legacy so far, but in how she handles being sidelined when the cameras are still rolling, but no longer centered on her. This training camp isn't just a camp. It's a signal, a rebranding of Team USA with new energy, new leadership, and new faces ready to dominate the next era of international women's basketball. Caitlin Clark is a crown jewel of that vision. Her presence alone turns casual viewers into devoted fans, breaks record with ease, and pulls in sponsors who couldn't have cared less about the sport 5 years ago. That's not hype. That's in Wilson. She had that same opportunity. She had years to evolve her role beyond just player to watch into leader of a movement. But instead of focusing on building that connection with the broader audience, she spent the last year airing her grievances. And it wasn't empowering. It was exhausting. We get it. Being overtaken in the spotlight by someone younger, newer, and massively hyped is hard. But how you respond matters. And the way Wilson has responded, it's made it clear why Team USA isn't bending over backward to keep her around. She's made herself more difficult to root for. That's the harsh truth. The energy shifted from dominance to defensiveness, from confidence to comparison. And when your whole vibe starts to feel more like, why her? Then watch me, people tune out. Coaches move on. Brands pivot. Wilson hasn't been benched because she's not good enough. She's been benched because she refused to adapt to the new rules of engagement. And if you listen closely, there's silence from the Team USA staff, not because they're hiding, but because there's nothing to debate. They've evaluated everything: skill, leadership, chemistry, maturity, influence. And based on everything, Caitlin Clark made the cut. Wilson didn't. What's more damning is that this was predictable. Anyone paying attention could see the trajectory changing months ago. Clark's influence wasn't just rising, it was redefining the scale. The sport was expanding, and the system started favoring players who could keep up with that growth off the court as well as on it. Meanwhile, Wilson's online energy felt stuck in place. Defensive, reactionary, like she was more interested in being seen as underappreciated than in proving why she still mattered. There's no faster way to lose your grip on relevance than to demand it instead of demonstrating it. And now she's realizing that brand equity, emotional intelligence, and public reception are just as valuable as shooting percentages, especially when it comes to representing the country on a global stage. In AW Caitlin Clark and Aya Wilson, Team USA is not just curating a squad. They're curating a story, and Clark is the lead, the breakout, the one with international crossover appeal. She sells tickets, she brings eyeballs, and she does it all without controversy. Wilson had the chance to be the experienced anchor in that story. Instead, she became a subplot about what happens when pride gets in the way of progress. And the really frustrating part? It didn't have to go this way. Wilson could have leaned into mentorship. She could have celebrated Clark's rise while still asserting her own presence through leadership and excellence. But she chose ego over evolution. That's why this moment matters. Because it's bigger than basketball. It's about what kind of player the world wants representing the next generation of women's sports. And right now, the answer is clear. Wilson's future isn't over. But if she wants to reclaim a seat at the table, she'll need to stop trying to control the spotlight and start earning it again. If you've made it this far, drop your thoughts below. Do you think Wilson can bounce back? Was this fair? Should she take this as a wake-up call or keep pushing back? Like the video if you're here for the tea. Share with a friend who needs to catch up, and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter in this ever-messy, never-boring world of sports chaos.